And we're live. And welcome to the After Dram, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to you, the viewer. Welcome to our fantastic panel that you see in front of us. It's the After Dram. It means it's time to unwind. So put your feet up, grab a cocktail or two, or just stick with the scotch. That's really okay. And relax. So a quick recap of our evening. Kent, Dave, Blair, Davin, I, and Leon have been treated to and Jacob. No, I said Jacob. He was third. Oh, sorry. My wife's correcting me, but it's okay. She's usually right. So I'm going to continue.
Thank God we're in the After Dram.
That's what happens here. So, all right. So we've had our distillery. It was our tour. It's fantastic. Shelter points on Vancouver Island. We're all happy. We've had lots of drinks. We've seen the stills. And now we're sitting in the lounge enjoying a much anticipated beverage. For some reason, I have this red thing with this fluffy stuff on top. It seems fantastic and not whiskey in my hand, but I will enjoy it. Distillery tours are hard work, and we're going to do another round, please, of the introductions. Let's tell people who we are. I'm Dolph Shaw, the president of the Alberta Scotch Society, and your host tonight. And I'm drinking, Kent, what's this called?
You should be doing the, I don't know. Shit.
His idea.
I don't have the sheet with that other cocktail.
Thank you very much. This is my cocktail, and the cocktail is an ounce. We'll do what's in it. An ounce and a half of the double barreled. We've got half an ounce.
Shelter Point double barrel.
Shelter Point double barrel, and the Shelter Point Sunshine, and some maraschino liqueur. And I don't have my lemon thing. I made a lemon thing to go in here too, which I'll show you once it finally comes.
Garnish.
Fantastic. The garnish. Yeah. Took me 5 minutes to make
behind you. Like, get some of that open.
All right. So let's start with you, buddy. You two introduce yourselves, you and Jacob. I'll make you big. And what's in your glass as well?
I'm Jacob. I'm the manager of Shelter Point Distillery, and this is Leon.
I'm Leon, citizen of planet Earth.
Planet Earth.
Resistance is futile. You drink my whiskey, you're part of us.
I drink whiskey, and I enjoy drinking it.
Good stuff. Blair, you're going to be out.
Yeah, I'm Blair Phillips, co-author of the Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. I'm enjoying a rusty nail with the same ingredients that you have, Dolph.
Sunshine as well?
Yeah, sunshine as well.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
I've never had a rusty nail that way. All right, Davin, you're up.
Hi, I'm Davin, the Kergomeaux. I'm, along with Blair Phillips, I'm the co-author of the Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. And I'm drinking Shelter Point Montfort Lot 141, and I won't be drinking a cocktail tonight. I'm just going to get on the Shelter Point. When I get tired of that, I'm going to go to the double barrel.
Good. Excellent idea. Kent, you're up.
Hi, my name's Kent. I go by Whiskey Ass on Instagram and Facebook. We're doing a whiskey scratch-up, and I'm kind of wondering, Dolph's is red, so I'm wondering if you use red instead of white.
My red was the maraschino cherry juice.
Oh, okay.
Or liqueur, I should say.
Yeah, you did the maraschino. Did you add a little vodka to your maraschino cherry juice, or just straight up?
No, sorry, let's do this. It was a moonshine maraschino cherry mixture. It's what I had. So that was the ounce of that, or 2 ounces. So this is 7-ounce drink, and I'm sure it'll be fantastic at one point.
I made mine unpretty. We have the maraschinos and everything.
And Yukon Dave's trying to set up in the background.
Point 2. So this is the next smoke point, and I just dipped my glass in like 1,500 liters of whiskey and took out a big dram.
Oh, nice.
It's tasting absolutely delicious. I'm very happy with this whiskey.
And I've had a long day at work. I'm just drinking beer that I got from our local liquor store. It's wonderful.
Yep. Tell us the notes that you get on that, buddy.
urine a little bit, but it's wonderful.
Tell them because this is like lucky extra.
Yeah, a little bit more than the average lucky.
It's
A little bit more. Here's my garnish. My garnish. That was a 5-minute garnish that you can't even see through my drink. Davin, let's get a little bit serious. Not much, but a little bit more serious. When you first went to Shelter Point, you looked at this magnificent place because it's beautiful on the outside and the inside. What did you notice? Is there something that kind of stood out for you?
Well, the first time I went to Shelter Point, it wasn't finished yet. The construction wasn't finished yet.
Okay.
What struck me is that the fellow who was showing me around, Jay Odlifson, he had me go down and look underneath the floors to see how impressive the plumbing and the wiring was down there. It was, but what I really thought was funny, and Mike Nicholson called it the water feature. They had a little pond with water trickling down, inside. I guess this was, so it would be inviting to visitors because it's a beautiful visitor center there and a great place to get married. I mean, some people have even been married at shotgun point in that place, to be quite honest with you. But shotgun wedding? Yeah. But it struck me what a beautiful, beautiful location this was. And it would be kind of cool, to have some cottages there and just kind of, it's a great place to vacation. When I went back to Shelter Point, when we were writing the book, the warehouse that we just seen where, you turn the light on, the light goes on at the front. It's a long, narrow warehouse where Jacob and Leon are sitting right now. The first light goes on, then the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, we're going down the back like some kind of a carousel or something like this. Anyway,
I thought you're traveling through time is kind of what I got from it.
Yeah, we can do it again. It's really fun to do.
Yeah, do that.
Make a big screen dog.
I like the sound kind of adds to it. Snap.
But when I arrived at Shelter Point, when we were out there to write the chapter for the book, I organized with Jacob that I was coming out, and we had a time set and all this, and so I got up at 4:00 in the morning in Ottawa, which was 1:00 in the morning in Campbell River. Okay. And I had to make it to the airport to catch my first plane. My plane went somewhere, probably Toronto or someplace like that. Then I caught a plane from there to Vancouver. Then from there, I flew to Nanaimo, rented a car, and drove up to the distillery. And I got to the distillery, and there's Leon and Jacob standing outside the distillery with their coats on. And I got out of the car, and by this point, I had been in travel for 14 hours straight. So I got to the distillery, and they're standing there, and Jacob says, "Just leave your coat on. We're just going to go down to the beach and have some, have some lunch." I thought, okay, fine, but I'm really feeling kind of a little bit, So we head down to the beach, and we're driving along, and I see this helicopter sitting over there, and figure, I wonder what's going on. We're going to drive by that. No, we're driving on this little ATV, and Jacob lets his kids drive it, but man, I wouldn't. It was bouncing up and going around like this, and I'm quite susceptible to motion sickness. But we get the helicopter. He says, "Okay, we're going in the helicopter." So I sat in the front, and Leon and Jacob are in the back, and the helicopter takes off, and we're blah, 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 going up like this. And we're heading into these mountains, We're flying along. It's really exciting, and it's beautiful. But I was just about dead from exhaustion already. And it's all glass, like underneath, you can see everywhere. We're flying along. All of a sudden, we go over this cliff. And all of a sudden, it's like 3 Ks straight down from where we were, And the pilot turns to me and says, "So how did you like that?" I said, "Not so much." It was a fabulous trip up there. We got up to the top, and there, Patrick's up there with some from the distillery. I can't remember, a woman, I can't remember. Anyways, they had cheese and smoked salmon from the Sailor's Sea. They have two Ks of Sailor's Sea right there. And so we had our lunch up on top of this mountain. You could look down and see Mount Washington, where the Olympic skiers train. We're drinking Shelter Point whiskey. And that picture that is in the book on page 63 was taken right at the top of that mountain with Jacob and Leon behind the table. And it was just quite a happy coincidence that two jets had gone by behind, and they'd made a white cross in the blue sky, and it just looks like St. Andrew's Cross behind these two guys serving single malt whiskey at the top of this mountain. It was honestly one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had in whiskey. And it was really quite fantastic. But anyways.
And Davin, in the first episode, Dolph asked a loaded question saying, is there a place like Shelter Point in Canada just like it? You can't compare other distilleries to a place like this.
A massive, beautiful place, in and out. Is there any place that took your breath away as you came in, as well as when you actually go into the distillery?
Glenora is pretty spectacular.
Nice.
Yeah,
East Coast, West Coast.
The town of Lunenburg is pretty spectacular. So Ironworks is an interesting place. The distillery itself, no, but the area around it. But there's nothing like Shelter Point in Canada. Honestly, every podcast I'm doing, and I'm like doing sometimes a couple of these or 3 or 4 in a week. I'm always talking about that visit to Shelter Point because, well, the helicopter ride was just sensational, wonderful as an experience for me. But for the average person just pulling into the parking lot, you just have to go to the warehouse and flick the switch. It's much, much more dramatic than Jacob and Leon showed you tonight. It's truly dramatic. I know my friend is a quite a well-known whiskey writer. He was touring up to Alaska, and he stopped in there, and he went in there, and he showed a little video on Instagram of the lights going on and off. And it's a place. Honestly, I think that there are very few distilleries I've been to anywhere that really give you that kind of a feeling of being a part of something, and having the ocean right there, and knowing that you've got like indigenous people fishing down there, like with fishing rods, and that we're eating the salmon that they caught on their own, on the Shelter Point property, and it's Leon. I mean, there are some places like in Scotland that are distilleries that are really, they've put a fortune into making them look great to visitors. I wonder if there are any places that are like, authentically as captivating, because you spent more time there than I have, as captivating as Shelter Point. I mean, it's worth the drive from Victoria to go up there. It really is.
I to say, actually, like even in Scotland, like there's nothing equivalent to what there is here. I mean, you do a few like farm distilleries, kind of like Kergomeaux on Islay, which is pretty special. Springbank, which do all their own malted barley, like all of that, superb. Isla Harris, they're going to make great whiskey. Watch out for them. Isla Harris Distillery on the Outer Hebrides, stunning place, beautiful. But in terms of like farm distilleries, I don't know any other place like this that has that sort of coastal farm. I mean, yeah, just the wilderness, the wildness of it is stunning, and it's all kind of natural. There's nothing corporate or commercial here. This is not like big business whiskey. This is like a third generation farmer from Vancouver Island who just had this dream. It's like a family-owned, independent farm distillery, and if you take all the distilleries in the world, there's nothing like this. Absolutely nothing. There's no distillery with bears running through it with like one guy who's just like, let's get her done, like Patrick.
Well, the corporate comment was a really good one, because we talked, Davin, before you got here. One of my things for the after dram, I was going to ask, why don't you make this to a destination spot? Because you obviously have weddings, you obviously have big parties there. Why don't you make this into a more of a one-stop, everything you want to do type place? And Jacob said they hate weddings. for one, because you kind of shot that question out of the water. But I do like the corporate kind of angle to it, because it's true. When something works, you want to make money off of it generally, right? But your guy, the owner, he's content with what's going on now. Well, he wasn't content with the cows, but he's content doing this, which is really kind of cool. And he stops there. He doesn't want to make the extra money for something odd, for something too commercial.
He wants to protect the wilderness, and that's what's different. You know, like he wants the wild nature of this farm. Like he loves the bears, he loves all the deer, he loves the eagles flying overhead. Like I don't think he'll sell out and ever like destroy that beautiful nature that's around him all the time.
Yeah, like the way we're gonna go forward is we're just going to be building more warehouses and trying to increase the tourist aspect. Just having a warehouse right on the ocean, like that's the next big goal, or making our own malting plant on site. Like that's the way we want to go forward. We don't want to get into the restaurant business or anything like that. It's more about the visitor experience and how can we just keep adding on while improving our whiskey going forward. And a malt plant on site is probably the next goal, realistically. And we've had them quoted out from multiple different places, and it's just about picking one and building a business plan around that. And that's the way it's going to go next, is that plant in a oceanfront warehouse. That's where we're headed.
That sounds fantastic, Jacob. They could get you in there and you'd like a buff up right away. You get that monkey shoulder thing going on when you're
So, Patrick's motto is, you have to work half a day to be successful. It doesn't matter if it's the first 12 hours or the second 12 hours. You just got to put it in. That's our motto out here.
And that's 7 days a week for 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Like working 12 hours a day. Like this is the kind of guy he is. Like he lives for the land. He lives for farming. Like he just loves nature. And it's very refreshing, especially for someone like myself who came from a sort of banking culture, like offices, computers, and spreadsheets, all that kind of thing. It's very different.
I think there's a lot of people out there that go into distilling after banking, or last week he was an interpreter. Like, how far away from distilling is interpreting and banking, guys? It's like, I'm the next one, teacher, and Kent's coming with me. We're going there for 12 months. I'll convince Dave to back us somehow. He'll come up with us. We'll have 3 guys and our 3 wives and girlfriend with us in Scotland. We'll do our
your wives and girlfriends. Oh boy, it's gonna be a very short trip.
I get that was different here.
My wife's beside me, Davin.
Oh, sorry.
And mine's up here, so.
I'm going to ask you a question about the farming, though, buddy, because I think I might have gotten you in trouble by saying you hated weddings. I know you don't hate weddings. You just want it to be as natural and whiskey related as possible. But let's go to the farm. What type of I didn't know you did rye, because I know you guys did your 100% rye, which I loved. I'm a rye guy. I really liked it. I didn't know that you did your own rye. Did you?
Yeah. So we didn't grow our own rye, but we did get sourced BC malted rye last year.
Well, I'll ask you a farming question then. Why? What type of land do you need to grow rye, and why don't you do it? Are you just barley and wheat? Is that like, does that take up most of the room type thing? I'm a city boy, but I need to know.
We grow any sort of cereal crop out here, no problem. We've actually grown cattle corn quite a bit in the past as well for Patrick's brother. We did wheat last year as kind of an experiment just to see how we could produce other cereal crops. We do have actually about 3 tons of rye. Like, we have enough rye to plant for about a 30-acre field, which we plan on doing this year. It might be next year by the time we get the field prepped, because we're just ripping out all of our raspberries right now. But it's just about setting up the combine to harvest each one. Our previous combine couldn't intake more than just barley the way it was set up, because it was an old 1980s machine. We got a new and improved one. It's only 20 years old now, so.
Be nice to the 80s, buddy. Some of us a lot older than 80s.
Yeah. I mean, 90s is just so much better, but
we're good. Good save.
But we're going to be just growing as many different cereal crops as we can. The next plan is we're going to try a winter barley as well, something that goes in the ground a little bit longer. We actually plant it in the fall and harvest in the spring, opposed to the other way around. So that's kind of what we're doing next. And then we're going to be planting rye, most likely in 2021, just the way this year shaped up. And we actually have a local scientist, our barley expert, kind of growing different plots of different varieties of experimental barley and wheat and
Those hybrid barley type thing.
We appreciate your input. And he's like this former UBC soil scientist. He's like retired now, but he loves grain. Like, he lives and breathes grain. And he keeps coming to the farm and he's like, oh, I could do like a trial of this, or I could do a trial of that. And he's just like, he's one of these guys that just, you just feed off his passion. And like, there's very few people out there that have a passion for soil and grain. So it's quite refreshing. And
so Leon, when you go from one distillery to another, or one country to another, one job to another, you're learning to do different stuff. What do you learn at Shelter Point? Like something completely new you didn't think of.
You learn how to drive a tractor for a start. Like,
I would love that.
Like, you should have seen how bad I was at reversing a trailer until I joined Shelter Point. I've driven a 43-ton gross vehicle weight truck now. I've had a shot in the combine harvester. Like, all this stuff, like, you never get to do in a commercial Scottish distillery normally. So I've loved learning about the farming, and I've loved learning about how the grain's grown and how it's affected by different soil conditions and different fertilizer methods, things like that. The beauty of working in a farm distillery is that it gives you like the whole journey right from the start, right from planting the grain. Like a lot of distilleries, they start with like the grain arriving in a truck. Like, we don't have that here. Like, we grow it ourselves. So that whole side of it has been a valuable experience.
That's really cool. Blair,
it's all good until you get the first 8-wheel drive stuck.
I don't want to drive anything because I'll destroy anything that I would be driving. And Kent would laugh at me for the rest of my life, so I don't want to have that. Blair, I sent you the not the ingredients, the recipe for this. I need on your Instagram. I need you to read it and look at us and tell me if Whiskey Ass or I have done it properly, and because they're completely different. And Dave too.
Yeah, I got no idea.
But I put it on your Instagram, so you've got it on there right now. So if you could tell me, because I trust
it should be damn near identical to mine, because I gave Dave the ingredients.
Well, I don't have my phone here, but what did you put in that to make it look like it's radioactive?
Where's my phone? It's radioactive. Everyone's being mean now. So let's look at it as I say it. Thank you very much. I've got 1/2. Actually, this is 3 ounces of whiskey, 1 ounce of sunshine, 4 tablespoons of the maraschino liqueur. And I use the cherries that were put in some type of massive liquor. It's horrible, but I put it in. And 1 caster of sugar, orange peel, and I put it in a coupe. This is not a coupe. The other one was a coupe.
You know what Richard Patterson would do with that drink?
You throw it up.
You know Richard Patterson, yeah?
Throw it on the ground and pour it out.
Get rid of that. Get yourself a proper dram in a Glencairn. Have a proper whiskey.
I agree, but I said that for all of these weeks, every one of these, Leon, I said I would make a cocktail. And apparently I'm not doing it properly, but this is only my second cocktail ever.
No one's going to hold that against you if you go back to drinking whiskey.
But I still think I'm up to 7 ounces in that thing, and I need my wife to have some before I get off.
Well, first off, you doubled the recipe.
Well, for my wife and I. Both.
I'm going to say half of that for your wife.
But then she gave it to me because it didn't fill up the glass, and that's your fault.
Like Caesars. Have you ever had a Caesar with an Ardbeg 10-year-old?
Yes, I have.
Those are amazing.
that is a whiskey cocktail I can get into for sure.
Yeah. And what Blair has, rusty nail. That's the only thing I've ever made in my whole life that I could call it a cocktail is a rusty nail. But for me, it's always been Drambuie, 1 part Drambuie, 2 parts some type of whiskey, whatever I wanted, and that's it. That's as complex as I ever got. And right now with my whiskeys, it's water, no water. With bourbon, I'll put ice, but that's the extent of my experimentation. These guys they're mixing and they're doing stuff and they're crushing stuff. It's like, no.
It's okay. I don't have whiskey cocktails either. I'm gonna have like a Ryan Coke or a whiskey sour, and that's just
Or a lucky lager.
or a lucky, which is much more likely.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you.
So I got a question here. Is we can make more whiskey, but can we sell more whiskey? Like, how many barrels?
Buy more whiskey.
Like, how much can you put away, and how much can you sell? Like, do you see the craft whiskey market expanding, or are we chasing something that's not going to grow?
I think it's going to expand. I think the more whiskey you have of a high quality, the better. It's just finding which market to sell it in, and then just being really strategic with how you're distributing the whiskey. I think it's kind of the goal for us. And the craft policy is obviously going to limit you a little bit with how much you're able to sell on the long run. But as you're still growing as a young distillery, it hasn't hampered us too much yet. I'm sure it'll come to get us eventually. You kind of want to go right up to that craft barrier and then stay there until you can explode past it. You don't want to go just a little bit past it and then pay tax on all that just underneath. You really want to go way over. So it's a lot of just building inventory. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Or just keep increasing the craft limit every year. We'll go 100,000, 150,000, 200,000.
Just kind of get them to try to. There's people fighting the good fight on the political side. That's not our area, but you got people like Tyler at Okanagan Spirit.
Okanagan,
Yeah, he's fighting for all of us. We'll give him his full support. But we don't do good with arguing in a politic basis. So we kind of we sit back, we support Tyler 100%, and we'll let him keep fighting the good fight.
When did the limit go up? I thought, it started at 100,000 before you became commercial. What's it at now?
It scales up. It starts at 50 and scales up to 150.
In Oyster River, it's 250,000.
Okay. Perfect.
But that's all. I mean, that's all good. But the BC government basically won't let you in the BC government stores.
Yeah.
Like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth there. Well, I'm putting that polite, but yeah.
Yeah.
They tell you can sell at the distillery, but you can't sell in our liquor stores. We can only sell international brand whiskeys and Canadian. Well, all mass-produced Canadian stuff's international.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we're a little bit lucky. We don't have to go that route because we are a craft distillery, so we can self-distribute. So we only sell to private liquor stores. Our single malt just made it into the government liquor store. And that was mostly out of necessity of just kind of the time that we're in. So
yeah, but you get taxed so high that you're like it. Yeah, I don't understand what the government's doing to you guys.
Yeah, a lot of it's breaking even in more of a marketing aspect than actually turning a real profit. And that's why we kind of trying to expand our market outside of BC. To other regions where you're not hampered by the same liquor laws that you are in BC.
Yeah. Well, the BC government could care less about the BC distillers.
Yeah.
The way I see it.
That's where it feels.
Just send it to Alberta. We don't care if BC gets it.
Right. No, not Alberta, Kent. To Edmonton, Calgary,
Edmonton,
wine market.
Calgary.
I want the pea. Give me that pea.
I think it's gonna make it up to Edmonton this year, unless
it should make it to Edmonton and down.
And I can't make that promise.
We're good.
Don't get on a plane.
I'm gonna quote an article you guys were in last year. So everyone's got growing pains, right? But I did a little research on your growing pains, and I could only find one really. and it came in a magazine called The Alchemist Whiskey in a Jar. So they're out of BC. And her name was Jennifer Foden. And she talks about one time when you ran your wash still so hot it went off like a volcano. All your hydrometers just kind of blew up. I'm just wondering, because you came late to this, Leon, was everything really, really smooth at your point? Or I want to know, because this is the after dram, about 50 people will watch this in the end. It's what happens. There's only 11 now. Tell us something that went really, really bad, but turned out to be okay in the end, kind of thing.
Well, I'll tell you the absolute truth. And that is, where I come from, things are very traditional, right? You know, you've got the Scotch Whisky Association, you've got a team of like 60, 70 lawyers that try and enforce the rigorous standards of Scotch the whole time, you know. And there's a value in that, you know, they're protecting a brand, they're protecting Scotch. And then you come out to the new world and things are different. Like, you know, like it's laissez-faire, as they say in French, you know, like this is the land of the pioneers. This is the land of like digging for gold and, you know, you're left on your own, you're free and easy. There's like a lot of space around. And it's a beautiful mix because like I'm trying to like bring my sort of Scotch process over here, but at the same time, you've got like freedom to innovate as well. So like I can do things here that I wouldn't be able to do back in Scotland. And I love that freedom. And when I arrived, I was like, I just went with the flow because, you know, I came from a small community and you just, you know, you just want to help as much as you can and provide your expertise and your skills and just like help them like do whatever they dream of doing. And that was it. So, you know, like I learned a lot, they learned a lot from me, I'm sure. And with our powers combined, I'm hoping for like perfect synergy, you know, like 2 + 2 = 5, you know.
Two immovable objects colliding type thing there, Jake?
Well, a lot of it was like none of me, before Leon came in, the only full-time staff were me, James, and Patrick. And none of us had any whiskey background at all. Like Patrick and James were farmers. I was the carpenter, and we were just doing what we could. Leon came in with Lydia. And,
what the fuck are you doing? It's like,
well, put it this way: like Jake is the only one that finished high school out of all the staff that were here when I arrived. You know, I have 3 degrees, 2 of which are masters, and it was like hilarious. Like when I arrived, it was just like there's such different cultures, such different backgrounds. Yeah, but somehow it works because we all have the same common purpose. Like we all want to make Shelter Point the best whiskey possible. And, you know, their skills are valuable in terms of like farming and operations. Like I have no idea about any of that stuff. But I bring like science, all that kind of thing. So, you know, it works. It's like batteries. You got the positive and the negative, you know, like the ones that attract are the positive and negatives. You know, it's not the positive or the negative. Yeah. And, you know, with all our skills, like we've got a very broad set with very few people.
All right, good. Blair and Davin, I'm going to put you both on the spot. Can you think of a distillery out there where something kind of went awry and they decided that, yeah, I think I want to go with that?
Oh, yeah, your wife pressed some beer.
Anything like that.
That's tough. That's tough to say because I didn't hear a lot of those stories myself. But I can speak to doing the book when Davin was in Shelter Point and going through BC. He would send me back boxes of samples that I would then do all the tasting for. And suspiciously, there was no Shelter Point in these boxes. So I'll leave it at that. But
what happened, Davin?
Yeah, he sent me a bunch of stuff from Sons of Vancouver, including their chili vodka in this little bottle. And it looked like it hurt. Like it had that look of it that is like you're going to be gently dabbing tomorrow morning when you drink this stuff. So what happened was I was tasting it and it blew out my palate. It was so freaking hot. And if you think of it, like you look at the warehouse and the shot of the warehouse behind Jacob and Leon, it reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark when they're opening up the Ark of the Covenant and that guy, his face melts. Well, that was before they had CGI, and the way they did that scene was they gave that actor a shot of this vodka, and he shot it. His face melted, and that's it.
Sons of
What's the name of
Vancouver.
that cough syrup? Yeah, it's like he was drinking what? Buckley's.
Hey, that makes an excellent Caesar, though. That chili, like I've had it with. It's a wonderful Caesar.
Oh, it's I love it. I love the stuff.
But it does.
I'm a huge fan.
For your tongue.
Yeah.
But it's fun to poke fun a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Davin,
Blair, I'm curious. I'm still that question that Dolph asked earlier about beautiful distilleries or really catching distilleries in Canada. I can think of a few, but I didn't go to all the distilleries that you went to. There must be. What was the most interesting, the most visitable distillery that you went to that I did?
If we go with the farm theme, like a farm distillery, Willibald's in Ayr, Ontario is beautiful. Like it's not by the ocean, of course, but they have the big, huge fields in the background, cows grazing, tons of botanicals growing in gardens, and they converted an old barn into a whiskey warehouse. It's very picturesque and beautiful, but I just think whenever you tell me the story of the helicopter, I'm done. I was driving in a 2003 Toyota across Ontario. I mean, not that exciting.
Helicopters, rubbish, by the way. They're not that exciting. You didn't.
We've only done that like 3 or 4 times. It gets boring.
There's oh yeah, right. There's so much more there than the helicopter. Honestly, that was just like an experience that you did not need 14 hours of travel.
And then,
Hey,
By
Davin,
the time I got there, I was
picture in the book because of that helicopter.
barely awake. Yeah.
Leon,
Go ahead. Distillery. Douglas, I like going out there. Oh, Oliver, like I've been there a couple times. It's a wonderful experience too.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's not actually in Oliver. It's 10 miles away.
Wait, yeah. Yeah, it's longer to here than I thought from what he told me on the phone when I was in Kelowna to when I got there. But I hung out there for 3 hours. He gave me as much whiskey as possible. I had to sit in my car just before so I could drive back.
And
so
it's all
yeah,
It's
it's all
a great place.
68%. It was wonderful. I had a very difficult time driving back to my hotel in Kelowna. But,
Steve Lee's on here with us next week.
oh, it's perfect.
He's a man who knows what he's doing. Like,
I hope he
he's
wears his
ready.
orange suit, really. The man in orange.
excellent. Well, speaking of shirts, guys, Davin, I saw you on Friday, and I saw that you had a story with your last shirt and how it was made for you in Africa. I'm wondering if this has the similar type of story, buddy.
Oh my goodness! I bought this shirt. I got this shirt in Zanzibar.
Zanzibar.
Yes, okay. And there's a store there that sells. Each shirt is unique in Stonetown. Each shirt is different, and they're really kind of made for tourists, not for the locals to wear. Right. And so it didn't exactly fit perfectly, but I really loved it. It fits better now that I've kind of filled out.
We all have.
Davin, have you ever worn a plain white shirt before?
His wedding, maybe?
No, I don't think I wore a white shirt to my wedding. No. When I got married, it was kind of funny. My full-time job back then was I was a musician. Okay. And we got married at lunchtime. And after I finished there, I went down. I was working in a strip club actually, and
that's a great story.
Went down and played a set, and then my mother arrived, and my new wife arrived, my aunt arrived, and then we did the whole Lottie the Body show, and then we took off and had fun.
What kind of music do you play at a strip club?
Pardon me?
What kind of music do you play at a strip club?
It has to have a lot of rhythm. It was at a club called the Bacchanalia in Victoria, actually.
Do you know it? Leon, have you been?
Like the only strip club left on the island is in Campbell River, so I live in the right place, really.
Yeah, I don't really go to strip clubs.
He'll play them. But he won't.
Other than
Go there for the burgers because they got
Yeah.
the Moose Burger Cafe. Like that's the only reason I go there. It's a great burger.
I've never heard of that place before. I don't know what he's talking about.
Good job, Jacob.
well, I heard Sarah Cooperman on YouTube yesterday. She's saying that her husband is quite a sexist, and so she's got up and put a jar with a hole in the top, and every time he says something that is offensive to women, she makes him put $1 in the jar, and he says, well, that's okay, because when the jar is full, I'm going to go down to the strip club, take it down with me down to the strip club. Oh,
That's a good story.
you left that note that your students can't watch this.
That was already on, and we put. I'm a teacher, guys, so I always have that. You have to be 21 to watch this thing. So that came and it went. Davin, we're all good. It's fantastic. This is a question for Leon, and then Davin and Blair. So, and actually, Jacob, you probably know this as well. You started with single malt, and then you went to the gin, and then you went to the vodka. Is that correct?
No, we went to vodka first. We actually thought gin was a fad back in like 2013. Me and Patrick and James discussed making gin, and we're like, it's just a fad. It's going to die down. It's safe to say we were wrong. And when we told Leon, we hired Leon, I feel like we told him that he would never have to make gin again because he wanted to make whiskey. And then like 6 months into it, we bought a gin still just to surprise him.
His first batch. Get to work, you.
Yeah,
right.
Go.
Oh, I just want to know the difference because I just want to be a little bit geeky. I need to find this out. What's the difference in time it takes to make the spirit when it comes to whiskey compared to gin, compared to vodka? And then for Davin and Blair, I want to know if you have the same idea for other places. Is there any place that's completely different from any of the ones that they're going to say?
Okay, so, well, the first bit is growing the barley. That takes 3 months. Okay. So that's when real gin or vodka or whiskey making begins. So you got 3 months in the fields. You harvest it. You then mill it, mash it, ferment it, distill it a couple of times. So that's probably about a week. And then we start our gin and vodka process. So then we take hearts that we would have put in the barrels for whiskey, and we then redistill them in the 20-plate column still. We make 95% grain neutral spirit. So this is the third distillation this spirit's had. We then take that neutral spirit and we then either dilute it down for vodka, or we then macerate it with botanicals for gin. So all in all, like the gin and the vodka is probably about a week and a half. For the whiskey, about 3 years.
Okay.
Well, the big thing like that's different for us too is we don't bring GNS in. Like a lot of distilleries who are making gin, like they'll just buy in the GNS and then they just have to go from there. Us making the GNS is what takes, I feel like, most of our time. Yeah, in the gin production.
Like this is the first gin I've ever made right from grain in the field. Okay. Because typically back in Scotland or England or other gins in Canada even, they just buy in grain neutral spirit. So you're kind of like cheating in a way. You're just like buying in like alcohol that's already been made, and you're just flavoring.
So are you saying grain neutral is bad?
I'm not saying it's bad at all, because I think it's like a great backbone for any kind of gin. Like it's very neutral. There's very little spirit character in there, and it really lets the botanicals shine. So like I've been involved with fantastic gins in the Isle of Harris or like Empress and Victoria, where we started off with a bought-in grain neutral spirit. But in terms of my own learning and my own education, like making a gin right from barley grown in the field, like that was phenomenal. That was like a totally different experience. Like using that 20-plate column still, figuring it out, optimizing the GNS. We realized that doing 100% malted barley was too much malty flavor in the gin. So we actually went to like 50% unmalted, 50% malted. So it's more of like a learning curve. Like when you do it from first principles, and then you like figure out what kind of botanicals work with that kind of spirit. Like spirit from corn, barley, wheat. They're all different, and botanicals will react differently with those kind of backbones.
I wouldn't say that it was bad. It was just it's just a longer process than what it could be if we were allowed to bring in GNS opposed to making our own. It's just a different step that we have to add into our process. That's all.
And you can, because you're a farm, you have it. Blair and Davin, are different regions making gins and vodkas out of different things other than the barley? So could you say Quebec is making it out of this instead of this compared to the rest of the?
I think Blair, maybe you better have a go at this, because Blair is really the gin guy.
Yeah,
he knows this gin inside and out.
It's a really complicated question because every distillery attacks gin a different way, and that's where you don't see a Canadian style, you don't see an Alberta style, you don't see a British Columbia style. You're seeing more of a condensed version of the immediate area around the distillery and what they can get for botanicals.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's like, you look at Circa Distillery in Montreal, and they have a lot of boreal forest botanicals in their gin. And you look at somewhere like in Newfoundland, and they're using savory from close by and the seaweed from the ocean. You look at Saint Laurent Distillery, and they're pulling kelp from the St. Lawrence River. It's I think gin is one of the most interesting categories because of that. You're seeing just a huge flavor base across the whole entire country.
All right. And Dave, you actually had a question when Jacob and Leon went off about what they put in their gin. Do you remember what you thought
That was so long ago.
Sea cucumbers, sea urchins, something?
Yeah, I read somewhere. Do you guys do something with sea cucumbers, or did I read that on somebody else's site?
We did some experiments with sea asparagus, and that's actually what I think Davin tried when he was visiting, because we were still in like the prototype stage, like trying different recipes. We wanted to do something that connected us with the sea because we're a coastal farm, and we went foraging along the coastline, and sea asparagus is one of the things that grows in abundance around here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it produces some pretty amazing results. But for our first gin, we just decided to go with a kind of like, nice, easy drinker, goes well in a gin and tonic, bit of lime, and kept it pretty safe. For our next gin, I think we'll do something more exotic with the sea asparagus or something like that.
You're bringing the sea asparagus back? Fabulous, because I put it in the book, and then Jacob told me, "Oh, we're not doing that anymore." Okay.
we will do it someday, Davin. Don't worry.
Yeah, we will have to do a second edition, but we've got to sell this one first.
But island time, right? On Vancouver Island, everything moves very slowly. Like we move at a different pace compared to the rest of the country. Like we have an idea here, we percolate on it for maybe like 6 to 8 months. Then it takes another 6 to 8 months to like have enough spare time to actually start executing it. Like we'll get there in the end, but it just takes time.
That was one of our favorite gins that Leon had produced when he was making all the different varieties that he did a whole bunch for us to pick from. But we wanted to, for the first gin, just to do something more along the lines of what your typical kind of London dry style gin was. And we always knew that the secondary gins that came out, that's when we're going to have a lot of our fun with them and be able to implement real aspects from our farm, whether it's harvesting right off the beach, right off the property, or growing our own botanicals on site. It's just something that's going to come with time, and we just have to figure out what we can grow and how it's going to impact in the gin with Leon. And then Leon's going to do all the hard work. Realistically, like we'll figure out how to grow it. He just has to pick what flavors he wants, and then we'll do whatever we can to get there.
So pretty bottle, Jake.
I'll find a pretty bottle. I'm just going to talk about pink. That's my whole goal. Like if you can color that gin pink.
So we're gin goes from like purple to clear.
Yeah.
When you add tonic.
Yeah, the opposite of the Empress.
So do they in on the island, do they use sea asparagus for anything else? Like is it
it's a traditional food of the First Nations. Like you can just forage it off the beach and eat it. It's delicious. It's like it's got this lovely little salty umami flavor. It's got this kind of aggressiveness to it as well, and it's a nice ingredient. And you get it right here on Saratoga Beach, just across the Oyster River, and it grows in these huge marginal fields right on the coastline.
A lot of the local restaurants will use it or implement it in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, it's a more common thing than you would think, but it's not common to be used in spirits yet, and that's just kind of the way we want to go. Try to innovate as much as we can.
Yeah, I really like the idea of using that sea asparagus. Beyond the romance, I like the idea of getting the some of the local, specific local botanicals into the gin. But I was really impressed though with kind of some of the gins that were coming out of Quebec. And again, Blair, I'm going to have to go to you, but like mushroom gin and carrot gin, or Blair, I wouldn't mind if you could just refresh us on that. Some of the Quebec gins, because I think Quebec is like the hidden secret of gin making in Canada right now.
Yeah, no, you're bang on. You look at the Gaspé region, where I think it's the forest converges, and it causes this big, huge mushroom farm, basically. So O'Dwyer Distillery in Gaspé is taking those mushrooms and using it as a botanical to put it in their gin. But it's not like you don't drink the gin and you're like, oh, this is a mushroom soup. It's really delicate and balanced, woven into the juniper and everything else. And as said, with Circa, you have your botanicals that are from the boreal forest, and just the stretch of distilleries along the St. Lawrence River using ingredients from the river. It's amazing.
So anybody doing Fiddlehead gin out on the East Coast?
I would love that.
I can't think of any.
Those were great when I went out there.
Yeah,
Fiddleheads. I love fiddleheads. Yeah,
Blair,
I had them in omelets.
Musky or not? Like,
what's that?
You think of was the gin with the mushroom musky or kind of earthy? I'm trying to figure it out.
It wasn't musky. It was earthy.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So Leon, I'm really in awe of you because you get to be really creative in something. You don't think that there's a lot of creativity in the industry, because you think people come to a flavor profile and they want to keep getting. It's like this, like the double barrel I like a lot. And if I loved it, I would want to see it again. Two brewers, they're fantastic. You love something, they've got 4 different expressions. You can expect something in 4 years I'm going to like again or love again if I just loved one thing. Blair and Davin, can you think of any other distilleries? And we're going to discount the 2 that we have down there. We're going to discount 2 brewers. We're going to discount Shelter Point, that do something really creative on a continual basis. Because these guys do, and I love them both for that reason. Can you tell me someone else that I could kind of go to that does stuff that's vastly different?
Oh, there's hundreds.
With Scott. Sorry, no, with whiskey. I'm sorry.
Whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to talk about a distillery that has a house style? Because Stillwater's, I can think of right off the bat, has a whiskey that has a bit of a house style to it, that has some identifying factors. Like you taste Shelter Point, and you're like, this makes sense. This tastes like Shelter Point.
Yes.
With Stillwater's, I get the same thing. When you taste it, and you're like, okay, this is definitely their whiskey. Anyone else, Davin, that you could?
I like what Stillwater's is doing with the rye, bringing out those lemon notes, and Dillon's is also doing that as well. I'm trying to think of really. I mean, we make a lot of great whiskey. Like Last Mountain makes some great wheat whiskey.
Yeah,
they make some really good whiskey as well.
And Black Fox Farms is making some Triticale whiskey that I think it's not out yet, but when it's of age, it's gonna put a stamp on things for sure.
Yeah, I haven't tasted that. Blair did all the tasting notes for the book. He's seems to be a real bear when it comes to tasting spirit. So yeah, Kathy was saying earlier, I was collecting all these samples and just mailing them back to Blair so he could do notes on those.
Yeah,
so
boxes.
He's probably got a better handle on that. Pardon me?
Boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff would arrive.
Yeah,
and
Seems like a dream job there, Blair. Did you enjoy it?
Man,
Yeah.
it was. I have to admit, it was a hell of a lot of fun, a lot of work, a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings. It was good. It was cool.
Is there anything that you would like to see that you don't currently see in Canadian whiskey?
In whiskey?
Yeah, in Canadian whiskey, is there anything that you would like to see that you don't currently see?
Good question there, Leon. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer too. I'd have to think about that.
Can you make rye that has some of those European notes, like the real lemony notes, the real citrus notes? Forget the cloves, forget the nutmeg, forget all that stuff, and really bring out some of the fruity and the floral notes in the rye. I know Dillon's and the Stillwaters are kind of, just dipping their toes in those waters. But think of something like Millstone. Some of those ryes are spectacular. It really just kind of blew my mind the first time I tasted Millstone, and I thought, holy crow, like this is. I always thought of rye as like the flavor of American rye, but there's so much rye. I think that there's you could do as much with rye as you can do with malted barley. You could get the same just as broad a range of flavors. I'd like to see some people who, instead of trying to copy American rye, start really just pulling the flavor of the grain out. You guys would be a good ones to do that because you're kind of terroir oriented. Using the farm, you thinking like we pulled all this grain from lot 141 or something like that. It would be interesting to see you do something like that. I don't know how familiar you are with Millstone.
We can take the grain and then just go from there and like distill it in different ways or mature it in different ways to pull out different flavors. So we have that option here just to do it all from first principles, which is great.
Find out what kind of yeast they're using to ferment that rye, because boy.
You're very gutsy in saying this, Davin, because I brought that very same thing up to Dr. Don when he was in Banff last year. I said my favorite rye of all time was the Millstone 100, and I thought he was going to kill me. He looked at me with such disdain. He went over there. He said he hadn't had it yet, and it was there. They had some, so we went over, and he didn't like it as much as I did, obviously. But I love the orange peel, the orange rind that you get in the Millstone 100, and just something different. And the science and the art coming together, and that's where what Leon does and Dr. Don does, that really impresses me. It's the hands-on with the science and the creativity. They get to do everything. So I'm very envious. Really.
There's only so much science can do, though, because remember, some of the most potent chemicals are there in such small quantities you cannot detect them with scientific instruments. You can only detect them with your nose. But I mean, think of some of the things that Balcones is doing with rye, for example.
I'm sorry, who?
Balcones in Waco, Texas.
Okay. Yeah. Balcones. I got to write that down. Sorry, keep going, Alvin. Sorry.
But I mean, I think that there's so much unrealized potential in rye whiskey, and I think as much as Canada's been making good, Dave Pickerel used to say that the very best rye whiskey in the world is made in Canada at Alberta Distillers, and that's why they bought Alberta Distillers rye to make Whistle Pig.
Yeah.
But that still tastes like American rye. There are other flavors in there that people just aren't pulling out of the rye. So I'd like to see people do some things with rye that haven't been done yet.
Some more innovation with rye. It's kind of what you think would benefit us.
Yeah, well, I get really excited when I taste still waters. When I taste Millstone, my goodness, I just love that stuff. Millstone 100. Have you got that one, Dolph?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That's the one that Don almost killed me over. So
yeah. Well, when you're selling whiskey, it's hard to be objective.
I know, but let's refocus ourselves. We're here and we're talking about Shelter Point and sorry, I had this as well. I gave it to my wife, and Kent, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. but I gave my wife the 7 ounces so I could get lucky later, I think. As well. She's got it all right now, and she's enjoying it. Thank you very much. And another one for Leon and Jacob. Gentlemen, I see in the barrels, if you take the pictures up front, you've got lots of hops growing. And I'm wondering if you're thinking hops are going into your whiskey at any point in time, because I was talking about Dr. Don, and I thought about that a bit too, his hops. So,
God, no. Hops and whiskey, that's horrible. Like, no. That is just,
how are you doing it? Are you going to make
only?
So we grew those hops just because it was the only thing that deer wouldn't eat. Because we used to have apple trees there, and then we had some other plants, and the deer kept wiping everything out. And then we threw hops in there just as like someone dropped them off. Like, oh, we'll throw them in. Like the deer have literally killed everything else we tried to grow over that arbor. And then they just don't touch the hops. That being said, without telling Leon, I have dumped buckets of hops into random barrels of whiskey in this warehouse. They'll have random markings on them. Just something that we'll find out, in like a few years to see what they taste like.
You'll never know, and you'll be the one guy.
There's lots of experiments in this warehouse where I've dumped whatever I can find on the farm just to see what'll happen, whether it's pine needles or shards of maple or whatever I can try. I don't tell anybody. I just throw it in there, and then I let them taste it. And then after, if they like it, I'll tell them what I've done to it. If they don't like it, I keep it a secret, and we never bring it up again.
That's the 90%.
I said Leon was the guy that was all creative. You're the mastermind behind it all, buddy. Good job.
It's Patrick. You can't if you don't watch Patrick, he will do things that you'd never guess.
Hey, did you guys?
One thing that's related to hops is of course, the cannabis plants, and I know that it's legal in Canada. I've been experimenting with like cannabis buds in bottles of vodka just to see if it comes out. And there's a little product that we've come up with just locally, like it's like called Merville Magic.
My friend.
It is phenomenal. It gets you drunk from the feet up. Like, you're sitting in your lazy boy, and you just like, wow, my legs are really relaxed right now. And it's just like it's a superb little innovation. It's not available to the public, but
not yet. We're working on it.
I'd buy it. Why not? I'm getting drunk. You can tell it's coming. It's like what's going to happen. You're anticipating. This is great.
Yeah, you got to just be on the forefront of these type of things. And if we can include cannabis into the gin or the vodka somehow, I mean, it's the next way to go progressively.
It's the building of minds, buddy.
It's
all fantastic.
You don't know until you try.
And you know what you should do? You should do that, and then you should make a potato chip flavored whiskey.
What kind of chip?
Potato chip vodka. Potato chip vodka. Yeah, that'll be cheaper. Yeah.
I got the munchies. Yeah.
You guys are doing Stevely next week, right? Like,
Yeah.
If you want to tell a story, you should ask Stevely about when we were producing our gin. Ask him about the phone call Patrick gave him at like 1 a.m. Patrick,
one of us have to remember that.
Yeah, like
Golf, you're in charge.
Leon, a whole bunch of whiskey. Can you taste that gin? And then after the end, he told us like which one we all picked as our favorites. Whether it was all the BC craft gins, and Patrick's top 2 were Stevely's Noteworthy Gin and then the Navy Strength. And then Patrick, unbeknownst to me and Leon, went upstairs after we've had quite a few gins already in our system and made a really nice phone call to Stevely, who he had not talked to in at least 2 years, and just told him he hates him and how much he loves his gin. And then I think he hung up on him. So when I went to visit Grant, he's like, "Oh, so Patrick called me the other day."
Wrong number. I don't know.
I hate you. I love your gin, and then just hangs up.
It's like, I love your gin so much. But this is the beauty of blind tasting. You get rid of all your preconceptions. You get rid of all your like biases. You're just judging something purely on flavor. And if he likes Noteworthy Gin, all the credit to him. He should buy the distillery.
He loves gin. That's the only gin he drinks our gin a little bit, but he always has a bottle of Noteworthy. Every time I go to the Okanagan, he always gets me to stock up just for him. And Steve Lee's wonderful. He gave us some of his barrel-aged gin and all that other stuff. And Patrick drinks it all in one night, and it's wonderful.
Some Freud casks and everyone's happy.
Yeah. We gave Steve Lee those casks. He actually sourced us some wine casks from some local wineries that did not want to sell us casks, and Steve Lee got it. So
I'll get it behind the thing.
I love Steve Lee.
Oh, he's a pretty awesome guy. Yeah.
This week, but gentlemen, stick around. But before you do, I just want to give people a last word. It's been an hour and 5. These 2 hours just flew by, guys. So thank you to everyone. Thank you, Kent, for giving me the.
We'll get you the cocktails,
Red
I'm
cocktail.
trying to remember what Blair called it. This abortion of a drink. What did he call it? He called it something. But thank you,
Whiskey Crusher. Yeah.
My wife does have it, and she's enjoying it. Thank you very much. But it's good. But we're going to do a last roundhouse of everyone. Davin, do you have any last words? And then Blair, I'll go to you, and then Jacob, Leon, and then Kent, and
I'll hold up my book, The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. Blair and I wrote this. It took, 2 years, I guess, really to put it together, but we started long before that, visiting distilleries in Canada. And we haven't been able to do any live events because of the coronavirus. So it's got every distillery in Canada. It's got maps, beautiful color maps. If people want to visit distilleries or plan out their own little tours, it's a really a good, an excellent reference. Contact information for every distillery. If you're visiting this distillery, what's the next one that you should go? Where should we go from here? Things like this. It's got recipes in it, tasting notes, and
You get free drinks.
Try
You get free drinks with the book, right?
well, you do if you go to
Absolutely. One of the reps for Yukon Brewery has promised to donate free drinks to everyone who buys a copy of the book. So you already owe us a dozen drinks.
With a proof of purchase.
So that goes to my last one. And thanks very much, Leon and Jacob, for being with us. I think that you guys you make awesome whiskey, just truly wonderful whiskey. And every bottle is just as good as or better than the one before that. And just keep it up. You're really putting Canada on the map. I heard that the Single Malt Whiskey Society wants to bottle your whiskey. You'll be the first Canadian distillery with an SMWS number.
We said no. We're not giving them any.
Oh, you buggers. I mean,
I love to go more now.
Only joking.
No, they Rob and Kelly took some samples, so Rob hasn't been able to get over there yet, but hopefully we can take samples to the board soon, and they can pick a whiskey and I will be the first.
COVID got in the way.
Yeah.
It's
Of a lot
funny
of things.
because they'll probably sell an 8-year-old for $250 because I'm part of the society. But I'll just go to you and get it.
it'll be a honey barrel.
We'll pay your free sample.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Blair, any last
Hey,
words?
$200 for the same bottle that I already just read.
They're only allowed to bottle a cask of ours if they give us a couple of cases.
That's the deal we're gonna make.
Good.
Yeah.
Blair?
Yeah, no, just a bit of a quick thank you to the Globe and Mail for putting us down as in their Father's Day guide.
Oh,
Yes.
And to anyone who picked it up for Father's Day, we're really appreciative of that.
All right. Jacob, Leon, any last words?
Oh, just thank you for having us. And as soon as we can get Davin and Blair out here to do that book launch we wanted to do back in March, we'd love to have you out here.
Thanks
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah,
Just
thank you.
thanks for everyone who's contributing to whiskey and being part of the scene. And hopefully you get through COVID all right, and we'll meet up for drams on the other side.
Excellent. Kent, thank you for looking at the comments on the side and trying to get us involved with them. Any last thoughts from you, buddy?
I just have to say to Davin, COVID's probably been the best thing for your book from my side of things. on every multimedia platform that I'm on, there's Davin. I didn't have a clue who the heck you were 4 months ago, and now you're everywhere in my social media.
Well, you are ever present, Davin. I saw it. Well, I think I've seen you 3 times this week. So, Dave, what do you got to say, buddy?
Well, thanks to everybody for being on the show. I've kissed Davin's butt enough in the past series, so I won't do it this time. But I would like to come out and camp on the camp down by the ocean front sometime.
Oh, we're definitely coming to your distillery.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
A fantastic idea, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to end off with my spiel, but everyone stick around if we could, please. So my end spiel is this. Well, that's it, Whiskey brothers and sisters. This has been a memorable episode. It really has. One that I and hopefully everyone else here really did enjoy. So here we go. Here's the good company. Here's the good whiskey and some cocktails. Here's the good books. Here's the good conversation. And here's to see you all next week, Saturday, June 27th, for our Whisky Book Club Canadian Whiskey Journey, Dub Glass Edition. So everybody, have a fantastic night, and we will see you next week.
Good night.